I'm here in Cannes with David Tiltman of Warc to talk a little bit about short-term effectiveness versus long-term effectiveness. What is the difference?
Well,
one is short, one is long.
Yeah, one is short term, one is long term.
What does it tell us about creativity, though?
Well, there's some very interesting research coming out at the moment, and we're in Cannes to support the Creative Effectiveness Lions, which we've supported since they launched 3 years ago. And we're seeing from data from coming out of things like the Creative Effectiveness Lions, but also from competitions like the IPA Effectiveness Awards in the UK or the North America EFIs. We're starting to analyse these to try and find out a bit more about what works and what drives effectiveness. And if you look at some of the work the IPA has done in the UK, there's some very interesting findings about what works in the short term and what works in the long term. Now, of course, any advertiser with shareholder value at top of mind, he wants to see the short term kind of
in this quarter.
spikes.
I want
yeah, I want it in this quarter.
quarter.
I want it in this quarter. It's very difficult to balance that need with the needs of the brand across 10 years, 15 years. You know, so you want the company still to be around across that period. And a lot of the studies that the IPA have done, which we're kind of very excited about, look at the different strategies between them, and they tend to suggest that creativity and really consistently creative companies are successful across the long term. They don't always drive that short-term sales spike,
right?
But across the long term, they tend to be very successful. And what that means for brands is generally that it's easy to say but hard to do, but you kind of need a balanced approach where your creativity, you can activate your creativity in the short term, but with a very long-term vision.
So what does that mean? What would be an example of a long-term creative idea versus a short-term?
Well, if you look at, let's take some of the IPA cases. If you look at the John Lewis advertising from the UK, very creatively fantastic. It did drive a short-term spike in sales because it was actually so good. It actually did.
And briefly, what did they do?
So it was a very emotionally engaging ad. John Lewis is all about. It's a brand that it's a department store brand in the UK. It's been around for donkey's years, and its advertising was always about it being the company that stayed with you throughout your life. Right. And they launched this new emotionally driven ad strategy with a campaign that showed a woman aging through her life, but John Lewis products always being there at different points of life. It's extraordinary advertising. If any of your viewers haven't seen it, YouTube it, it's amazing. But that did drive a short-term sales spike. But if you look at the IPA paper, then you can see that change in strategy that they reinforced over and over again led to sustainable long-term, well, not share growth because they're not publicly owned, but drove bigger volume share, bigger value share, bigger profitability.
Customers thought of them as being a store that they were going to keep coming back to.
Exactly. It made them think about the
store.
But
that's an example that combined the two, you're saying?
Yes. I'm trying to think now. You put me on the spot.
No. I mean, but that shows you the short-term one, but it's also
absolutely.
The longer-term one is almost like a strategy rather than a one-off creative.
Exactly. So if you're chopping and changing creative tactic every couple of years, then that might drive a short-term sales spike each time, but
the aggregate will not drive you.
Exactly, you're up and down. Whereas obviously, what you want to be building is they're called long-term price effects. It's not just volume effects where you're driving more sales. It's price effects where you can actually charge more for your brand.
Right. Okay.
So very interesting stuff, and I'm hoping that what we see from the Creative Effectiveness Lines is more of the same.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to seeing the winners, which we hope will be both short-term and long-term effective.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much, David.